Ladies and gentlemen, by now you're probably thinking, yes, Adam, I need help. I need support. This speech is so confusing. And if you're feeling that way, hopefully you've come to my office hours, or you're planning on coming to my office hours, or you'll verbalize that in class. Either way, this prep is really designed to help you understand the three different types of supporting evidence or sources that you're going to be looking for your speech. So to have fun, I want to get you excited and ask you a question. What does Walt Disney, Michael Jordan, and Chris Jordan have to do with support? Well, we're going to find out, hopefully, in this enjoyable prep. By the way, I love doing this stuff. I used to actually do radio. In fact, I'm really proud of what I used to do. I used to produce promos and all sorts of stuff. I even had a morning show, and here's a really funny promo that I produced.
You're listening to the Morning Militia with the Barracoaster.
As big and handsome as ever.
In Christine.
As beautiful and gorgeous as ever.
Only on Modern Rock 91.5.
All right, so let's move on to question number one. You're probably asking yourself, Adam, what is a source? All right, well, here's the good news. It can be a book. It can be a newspaper, even though that's quite outdated. But the reality is the majority of you, or 99% of you, are going to look to the internet. You need to make sure that your source is credible information, but more than that, it also has to support your main point. So remember, in your main point, you are arguing whether or not the interpretation of your proverb or quote is true or false in a specific area of life. So all of your sources have to support that. So all of your sources have to be about sports, if that is your main area in life, education, if that's your main area in life. As I said earlier, 99% of you are going to look to the internet. And in the next prep, we're going to talk about how to decide whether or not that information is actually credible. Now, here's the good news. Before you go on, I want to let you know that I am a huge fan of finding sources on the internet. There's a lot of good information out there, but it's your job to sort through all the crap to find credible information. And obviously, credible information that supports your claim. All right, so to kind of give you a brief understanding, this is considered a form of support. It's kind of like an infographic. If I was arguing that cats are much cooler than dogs, then I could use these statistics to say, look at this. There are an average of 9,000 viral views of cat videos versus dog videos, okay? Now, this is a terrible example, but the point I'm trying to make is that the internet has lots of information, and you decide whether it's crap or not. But I could use this source if I wanted to, if I were arguing that cats are cooler than dogs. And if you're a cat person, fantastic. I don't actually like cats. If you're a dog person, I don't like dogs either. I don't like animals, to be honest with you. But I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, you're probably wondering at some point, Adam, why do we need sources in our speeches? You're going to argue with me and say, but Adam, I don't want to find 4 sources for this speech or 6 sources for the next 2 speeches. But the reality is that this is really important. If you are going to give any type of presentation, you can't just tell people that you are correct or that your claim is right. You have to use sources so people trust you, but it also engages people too. I mean, think about TED Talks. If you haven't seen a TED Talk before, you'll see one before the end of this class. If you have seen a TED Talk, you might not have realized that, they're using basically information from their research in their life. And so they're experts on, what they're actually doing and what they're talking about. And so you want to make sure that you find good sources because you're not quite an expert yet. And so you don't have the information that people can really trust and rely on because you're just a student. And so it's your job to find what other people are saying. Find other experts that can support what you're saying. And that's perfectly okay. All right, so we've got 3 types of support here. And in your actual speeches, I want you to try to find at least one source that falls under each of these types of support. Because if you just have all statistics or you just have all testimonies or all examples, it kind of gets old after a while and people start to question your credibility. So in this class, I'm really trying to get you to understand that when you're making any kind of claim or any kind of argument, you want to try to use different forms of support because different people are going to gravitate towards different types of support. Some people are going to like the hard numbers. Some people like the soft examples. And some people just want to know that an expert has an opinion. So let's start with statistics. What is the definition of statistics? Well, the proper definition is the organization and summary of numerical data. I would really encourage you to underline organization and summary because statistics have to be both. It can't just be organized and it can't just be a summary. It's got to be organized and it also has to summarize numerical data. Unfortunately, a lot of times people view statistics as the science of stating what we do not know, as we see in this Sprint commercial.
Welcome to the Now Network. Population 49 million. Right now, 379 couples are splitting up. 253 by phone, 42 by email, and 84 by text message. 13,000 people are streaming Pandora on a bus. 3,700 people just found all their friends on Looped. 92 just realized they were in the exact same place. That's happening now. America's most dependable 3G network, bringing you the first wireless 4G network. Sprint, the Now Network.
Okay, so the Sprint commercial is a really good example of what happens when we do not cite statistics credibly. So let's go to Michael Jordan to see how it should be done.
I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
Do you notice that in both commercials you probably don't remember any of the numbers? But at least we have an organization for the Michael Jordan commercial. We understand that all these statistics lead us to a very powerful conclusion. And that is how I want you to cite your statistics credibly. I want you to not only explain and summarize what the numbers tell us, but I also want you to tell us what they look like in real life, okay? So let's start with the explain and summarize what the numbers tell us. Michael Jordan does an excellent job of telling us what the numbers explain to us, okay? I want you to do that. After you've given us after you've given us the stat, let us know what it tells us. And in some cases, I want you to actually show us it, like this awesome Chris Jordan video.
This is an image I just recently completed that is, when you stand back at a distance, it looks like some kind of neo-Gothic cartoon image of a factory spewing out pollution. And as you get a little bit closer, it starts looking like lots of pipes, like maybe a chemical plant or a refinery or maybe a hellish freeway interchange. And as you get all the way up close, you realize that it's actually made of lots and lots of plastic cups. And in fact, this is 1 million plastic cups, which is the number of plastic cups that are used on airline flights in the United States every 6 hours.
Chris Jordan is fantastic because he understands that statistics are just numbers. In order to give them meaning, you have to showcase how they relate to us in real life, like he's done with cups. I mean, isn't that crazy? Again, you might forget the number, but you remember the impact. And if you were to take the Chris Jordan video and the Michael Jordan video, you would say, yes, I remember what the point of those videos were. But if you go to the Sprint commercial, you're like, what was really the point of that? I don't really know. And that's the importance of organization and summary. You have to make sure that we understand why you're giving us these numbers and what they tell us. So I hope that was helpful for you. In all your speeches, I'm going to ask you to use statistics in this way. Tell us what the numbers mean, and show us what they look like in real life. All right, so that was statistics. If you have any questions, review and go back. Let's move on to testimony. All right, so the proper definition for a testimony is an opinion from an expert in the field. A testimony is also used in religion as well. Like someone has a testimony, it's like their story, but that's really not what a testimony means for this class. A testimony is an expert opinion in their field, okay? And so it's really important that we understand that they have to be an expert in their field and be commenting on that field in order for it to be a testimony. So, for instance, Mehmet Oz, okay? He was made famous by Oprah. He has his own daytime talk show. You may not have heard of Dr. Oz, but he also has a magazine. I'm sure he has tons of books. Anytime he's giving his expert opinion about anything that has to do with cardiothoracic surgery, you know it's good because he's an expert in his field. But if Dr. Oz is talking about something that falls outside of his expertise, and it's really not a testimony, it would be like me giving you dating advice and telling you that it's my expert opinion. Yes, I'm married, but it is by the grace of God that I'm married. I don't know why my wife decided to marry me, but I am thankful. I really never got past the first date because women were like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're a waste of my time. Fortunately, I found a wife who was very kind to me, redeemed me, and made me into a good man. The man that you know today. So I would not be an expert in dating advice, but if you want my advice anyway, I can give it to you. Again, that was Dr. Oz. So how do we communicate them credibly? Well, number one, you got to make sure they're credible, right? So when you're giving a testimony, you have to explain what makes them an expert in their field. And then number two, make sure that they have non-generic information about the topic. If Dr. Oz said, hey, you know what? You're going to get a heart attack if you eat bacon every day. We're going to know that, right? So you want to make sure the expert testimony is not only from an expert, but it's also something that's worthwhile and it gives us good information. And again, that's what makes TED Talks so amazing. TED Talks are all about giving us new information, non-generic information, unique information. Unique New York. Try saying that 5 times. All right, examples. All right, this is where students get really confused. So you can write down what the definition of an example is. But the problem is that you can't just say, well, Adam, Donald Trump is a really good example of unethical communication. Yes, I agree with you, but you need a source that explains the example, okay? So, for instance, you need a source talking about something very unethical that Donald Trump did as an example of unethical communication. Like, for instance, saying something really disrespectful about Ted Cruz's wife, comparing Donald Trump's wife with Ted Cruz's wife and talking about who was hotter. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. It's just an example. The point is that examples can be very powerful, especially when we're talking about inspiring things like proverbs and quotes. We're talking about people who have beat the odds, people who we didn't think had what it took, and they did it anyway. And that's really powerful. But we need a source to back that up. You can't just say, well, Michael Phelps is a great example of someone who has a comeback. As you may or may not know, Michael Phelps was actually suicidal not too long ago, and someone actually came and talked to him and kind of ministered to him, and that's why he was able to come to the Summer Olympics for his final round. Pretty cool stuff. But again, you would need a source to back that up. So, for instance, if we're talking about the inspiration of Walt Disney, did you know that Walt Disney was actually fired from his first job because he wasn't creative enough? Wow, talk about an example of someone that kept trying and kept working towards something, even though he failed at it at first. This is a great example, but it also comes from a source, so it works out well. So I'm going to teach you how to cite sources in your next prep, but I want to make sure you can't just say Walt Disney was fired from his first job. You actually have to have a source that backs that up. Again, we're not experts, and so people aren't going to trust us, but they will trust Business Insider. All right, so 2 very important things to keep in mind. 1, only use well-known or understood examples like Walt Disney. He is a well-known example. It was funny, a couple years ago, everyone was talking about Demi Lovato. She was an example of someone that got through a tough time or something. Number 2, or was it Selena Gomez? I get them confused. I'm sorry. Make sure you have a source that can verify the example, okay? So, again, just to recap for examples, we're talking about a real-life scenario that showcases some kind of principle, right? So when we talk about Steve Jobs getting fired from Apple and coming back, you would need a source for that. Walt Disney being fired from his first job, again, you would need a source for that. The idea is that we have to verify that this actually happened, even if it's common knowledge, like Michael Jordan getting cut from the varsity basketball team. You still need a source to back that up because I'm going to question you. All right, so I've talked about all 3 forms of support evidence. I want you to now try to find a source. If you look at the next page of your prep, you'll see there's some tips and stuff on how to find a source. Do the best you can. You might have to change the interpretation of your proverb or quote and or the main area in life. But either way, if you can find a source and you can identify it as a stat, a testimony, or example, you're going to be in really good shape, okay? And the next prep, we're going to talk about how to actually cite these in your outline and in your actual speech. All right, so I'm going to leave you with one last promo from something I did back in college when I was in radio because it's exciting. Maybe this is a great example of what happens when you don't let go of the past. I don't know. But either way, have fun. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you soon.
Last week on the Morning Militia.
Kohl's is a mom store. That's all it is. They have boring clothes.
Why do you think I'm going to be there?
Moms.
There's moms there? I'm going to be there. I'm going to be like, hey ladies, how you doing today? I'm the Vericoaster. Love to meet your acquaintance. Does that ring on your finger? That's a darn shame. Wouldn't that be awesome? And be like, hey, I'm working here.
I'll give you my employee discount.
10%, baby. All you got to do is open up a new credit card.
I might not be able to support you and your 10 kids, but I can for sure get you 10% discount on the school clothes.
Just when you thought it was easy to wake up, it just got harder. The Morning Militia, every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 to 9 on Modern Rock 91.5.